Bloomington City Council Committee of the Whole to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Councilmember Mathey,
Here.
Councilmember Bolin,
Here.
Councilmember Milawambwe,
Here.
Councilmember Emig,
Present.
Councilmember Painter,
Here.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Crable,
Here.
Councilmember Bray,
Here.
Mayor Renner.
Here. Thank you very much. We have a quorum and we're going to move forward. Our distinguished city manager, Mr. Gleason, would you come on down and give us a COVID update, at least part of the COVID update, much of which will probably unfold in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's always so much that could be talked about regarding COVID. Don't spend a lot of time, but I am actually going to spend a little bit more time tonight. I'll still be very brief. First, want to comment to the events that occurred, not just in Bloomington, but town of Normal as well, in our downtown district for bars and restaurants. I want to let the community know more so that the Bloomington Police Department have incorporated the emergency order noncompliance into their weekend downtown enforcement for quite some time. In fact, those checks have resulted in 3 violations under our Liquor Commission and Liquor Commissioner Mayor Renner. On November 4th at 12:01 a.m., the governor's order closed indoor dining for bars and restaurants. The city shared our enforcement steps that they will be notifying the McLean County Health Department for follow-up when we come across noncompliance. While checks have occurred the weekend prior, we saw nothing like what was reported this past weekend. Not sure if this is true. I heard this third hand and know at the end of the day it does not matter. But I have heard that students are going home this coming weekend, and it was sort of the last hurrah. Knowing that they may or may not return in January. Bloomington Police Department has already filed 10 complaints to the McLean County Health Department. Mayor Renner, as Liquor Commissioner, is considering bringing violations before the commission. I've also discussed this with State's Attorney Don Knapp, and we aren't ruling out criminal charges under the Administrative Code, which is a Class A misdemeanor. Both courses of action require a complete and thorough police report, and that is what we are currently doing. I know both mayors have talked about what more could look like regarding noncompliance. In fact, have a meeting on Wednesday morning with the town manager, Pam Reese, and with the county administrator, Camille Rodriguez, to discuss that very topic as well. I've also reached out to both Illinois Wesleyan University and Illinois State University late this afternoon, so I've not received a response, but about forwarding mask non-compliance lists for university level discipline in an attempt to gain compliance, because that's what we want, and know that that is what the community wants as well. Obviously, more to come in the next coming days, as Mayor Renner just did share prior to my comments. Additionally, we as a city organization, just sharing with the community that we are following the IDPH recommendation that they made a couple of days ago, requesting that if you are able to work from home, limit in-person gatherings over the next 3-week period. They strongly recommend that we do that. And what the city facilities have looked like from day one is open, but open to the public by appointment. And in fact, of the office type of jobs, the administrative jobs that we have throughout the city, we are not staffed in those jobs more than 50% as a general rule. But with this IDPH recommendation, we have in fact thinned out the staff that are coming to the city facilities that will be able to effectively work from home. And that's the course of action that I've directed the different departments to do, and I'll reassess on Thursday, December 3rd, with a possible change Monday, December 7th. And then also just sharing that beginning in December, administrative court will become virtual and will be held, I believe, on Zoom as the platform that we'll be using. Could go on more, but that's enough for now. But the biggie was the first comment that I wanted to share with the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gleason. I appreciate all your work and help on this. We're going to go ahead and move along to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone registered for public comment?
We have 8 individuals registered, one of which is in person. The in person is Alan Axelrod.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with Mr. Axelrod. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. My name is Alan Max Axelrod. I am the campaign lead of an organization called No Ameren Shutoffs. We are a $0 all-volunteer grassroots campaign of 47 member organizations and counting, from Waukegan all the way down to Carbondale, with the vast majority of organizations in Central Illinois. We have won 3 statewide moratoria on utility shutoffs. And I'm here today because of the gaps in our current moratorium, the devastating consequences of it, and the devastating consequences of yet another moratorium that was eroded and is going to cause more harm during this pandemic. On September 24th, 2 days after our 6-month moratorium through the Illinois Commerce Commission, Ameren, Illinois started to disconnect utilities. They disconnected 6,543 different households in just 1 week. 98 of those were in Bloomington. In October, that number went up to 440 households. When you displace a household, you are harming more than one household. The person is dehoused. If they have children, they have to have the children somewhere else, and they have to find their own shelter. 2 weeks after shutoffs began, we have not had a day under 2,000 daily coronavirus cases. That's October 7th. October 15th, we have had over 3,000 cases of coronavirus a day. October 24th, we had over 4,000 coronavirus cases a day. And October 28th, we have had over 6,000 cases a day, all before Halloween, all before the election. Our restaurants aren't more popular, although I'm sure they're great. Our election wasn't worse than any other states. It was utility shutoffs. The Congressional Research Service's 2007, that's Bush era analysis, entitled Pandemic Influenza, an analysis of state preparedness and response plans, had in Table 8, public utility service continuation. Ameren, Illinois is a public utility regulated by the Illinois Commerce Commission. I'm speaking to you today in support of Initiative B2 on the agenda because we need our governor to protect residents more than multi-billion-dollar corporations who, by the way, their profits have maintained pace or increased since last year for quarters 2 and 3. That was the zenith of our unemployment crisis. They had a 36% increase in their profits per share, and all the way through the end of September. So with no shutoffs, they've demonstrated the ability to be profitable, yet we have suffered the consequences of it. Please do what you can to protect your residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And exactly on time. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Matthew Sims, and the rest of them will all be remote participants.
Okay.
Matthew, are you there?
Matthew? Matthew, can you hear us? Hello, Matthew? Madam Clerk, do we know he's actually here?
Yeah, I can see that he is in the meeting. There's a little bit of a delay sometimes. Let me see if I can unmute him. All right, if you'd like, we could move on to the next
Yeah,
one and we can come back to Matthew. All
Yeah,
right.
we can't wait as much as long as someone
Sure.
actually could have time to speak. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Next up will be Charlotte Alvarez.
Charlotte? Charlotte, you need to unmute yourself.
There she goes.
Sorry, I just unmuted. Hi, this is Charlotte Alvarez. I'm the Executive Director of the Immigration Project. As a side note, we have a fund to help immigrant families pay rent and utilities that is still open. I encourage eligible families to contact us and apply. The program ends at the end of this year. But today, my primary purpose is to talk about the proposal to explore a certified welcoming designation with Welcoming America. I'm encouraged to see the city is continuing to try to find ways to help immigrants in our community. However, I encourage you all to not lose sight of the fact that hundreds of community leaders have been stating for years the key way to do that is to pass a welcoming city ordinance that eliminates communication between Bloomington Police Department and ICE. The Welcoming America designation requires community collaboration as part of its principles. Passing an ordinance will be a key way for us to collaborate together. One pillar of the welcoming designation is safe communities. And while the organization leaves it up to the city to determine what that means, given our history of FOIA requests, the fact that we're here today talking about these issues as a direct result of the community's calls for an ordinance, a safe community is one with a welcoming ordinance for us in Bloomington. The protection of a welcoming ordinance is not theoretical. It's a real need that we're talking about actual lives. I'm going to be really blunt. Recently, Immigration Project spoke with a client who was raped. She didn't make a police report or even go to the hospital. And despite our encouragements to report, they have not done so out of fear of giving an address. And the fear is that that could cause trouble or deportation for them or their undocumented family members. This person is not in Bloomington, but is in our service area in central and southern Illinois. Someone feels unsafe with their police, and so a rapist is out free. That's just how it is for our community members, and no one wants that. Here in Bloomington, we could get a similar call tomorrow or next week of someone who has the same fear. Although we have a good working relationship with the Bloomington Police on U visa certifications, we can't say there's a law here that your information won't be shared. We can't say with 100% certainty that no harm will come from helping to stop a crime. Being designated welcoming is something, but we aren't here to get a sticker or a designation unless it means more, unless it solves the problems and is responsive to our city and the needs expressed by our community. The public must trust our police for them to function effectively, and an ordinance is how we build that trust together. So let's keep on exploring welcoming designation, and in that process, let's come together around the table and put into place the ordinances and the actions that make us a strong, welcoming community where we all feel safer and better off.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Zachary Gittrich.
Zachary?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Zach. I'm excited to speak to you today because there are some great proposals being presented by both sides. First off, I strongly suggest you all support this non-binding resolution, politely asking the governor to create a moratorium on utility shutoffs during the COVID-19 pandemic. We haven't even gotten to the winter months yet, but the COVID numbers are through the roof. Passing this resolution is literally the bare minimum you can do, and it is desperately needed as we are months away from any possible assistance from the feds because of their incompetence. People are already working on breadcrumbs, kids back at home, and the last thing people need right now is utility shutoffs. I also wanted to say how happy I was with Donna Bolin for her supporting of welcoming cities. The Welcoming America's initiative will be a great thing to include in our welcoming ordinance. I'm really glad you've decided to support making Bloomington a welcoming city that is safe for immigrants by passing an inclusive welcoming ordinance. Your support is greatly appreciated, and thank you so much. And I know that many elected officials have worried about the baseless threat of losing federal funding because of passing a welcoming ordinance. The person who is making this claim has never actually read a single sentence of the U.S. Constitution. And just this past summer, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled stripping money from cities who refused to collaborate with ICE was actually unconstitutional. So by them doing that, they would actually be engaging in illegal activity. Hopefully, we can put this warrantless threat to bed since President Trump lost so bigly. I mean, I don't think anyone has ever suffered this huge of a loss in all of human history. I mean, it was hilarious, but super sad that Trump suffered this tremendous record-breaking failure from a candidate like Sleepy Joe and Kamala the cop. Just like hashtag sad. I don't think anyone's ever seen a loser this big. Anyway, since this huge loss by Trump in the election, we no longer have to worry about a federal government threatening to take away federal funding from cities that refuse to engage in immigration enforcement. With the inclusion of Donna's proposal, I think Bloomington will become one of the friendliest cities in the Midwest for immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Carla Bailey Smith.
Carla, you there?
Yes, hello. You can hear me?
Yes, Carla, go ahead.
Okay, great. My name is Carla Bailey Smith, and I'm here to support a welcoming ordinance. I'm a resident of Bloomington and a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bloomington Normal. Our statewide UU advocacy network supports all efforts to protect immigrants and keep families together because we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We seek to promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and to recognize our interdependence with all who are marginalized. Illinois' Trust Act only prohibits detaining people on immigration status alone. It doesn't do anything to prohibit local law enforcement to detain people or inform ICE of a possible undocumented immigrant. We want everyone to feel safe calling the police to protect them. And we don't want to see any more families torn apart. Additionally, I urge the council to support no shutoffs with Ameren. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next up, we have Lori Bergner.
Lori, can you hear us? Lori? Lori, are you there? Lori? I think you need to unmute yourself, Lori. Lori? Okay, we're gonna have to come back to her. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Can you tell her how to unmute herself? Maybe she doesn't.
She needs to click a button, and that's, I don't know where it is on her computer. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, we can. Let's move on, and we'll come back to Lori the same as we will for Matthew.
Right.
Let's see. Next up will be Doug Hennessy.
Doug? Doug, are you there? Doug, you need to unmute yourself. Again, anyone who's online, if you want to talk, you have to press the button wherever it is on your computer that says unmute. Doug.
It's *6 if you're on the phone.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Carrillo. *6 if you're on the phone. Thank you. Hello? Okay, Madam Clerk, could go to the next person, please.
Let's see. Next up will be
He's
Kyle
unmuted now.
Auer. Oh, he is not. Doug, are you there?
I am there. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Doug. All right, good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Father Doug Hennessy. I'm the retired pastor of Holy Trinity Church. I just want to speak briefly in support of the Welcoming City Ordinance. Again, I think it's really important that we codify the values that keep people safe and make sure that they know they can flourish and develop here. So I just encourage you to give that. Welcoming America is an admirable thing, but that's more aspirational, what we want to be. But the Welcome City Ordinance will make sure that it is what we are. So I encourage you to give that careful consideration. I think it's really important for Bloomington. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug, very much. Madam Clerk, next.
All right. Next up will be Kyle Auer.
Kyle, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Thank you.
I thank you, Mayor and the council. So I'm here today to talk about the Welcoming City Ordinance, and I'm very happy to say that that Donna is taking the first step towards going towards the ordinance. We definitely need to make more steps to make the community safer for undocumented and documented immigrants. Safety is of the utmost importance, especially in any community, and I feel like it needs to be followed through. And I also urge the council to look into no amaranth shutoffs because it's getting towards winter time and we need to make sure all of the community is safe. And especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, we definitely don't want people to feel like they have to expose themselves to the virus. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next up is Matthew Sims.
Matthew?
Hi, can you hear me this time?
Oh, yes. There we go. There we go. Go, Matt.
Excellent. Yes, the instructions were a little unclear when it was coming through. Hello, Council. I'm here in spirit and voice today to discuss two very important topics for me. The Welcome Cities Ordinance and a potential eviction moratorium extension. Now more than ever, we need to focus on healing all the damage done to our relationships with our fellow Americans. One of the most damaged by far in our recent political climate is with our immigrants. It is important that despite our political climate these last 4 years that we put forth the effort to strengthen the relationships with the immigrant community and our police by ensuring that police and city officials are not participating in federal immigration enforcement efforts together. We need to be culminating an open and welcoming environment in which people are willing to go through the proper channels to be a part of this and support of this society. This includes some great level of further immigration reform, but that's another conversation with other audiences. I urge you to pass the Welcoming Cities Ordinance and help heal these wounds that exist. Alongside this issue is something that is very important. Building upon everything Alan has said, Pritzker just extended the eviction moratorium for an additional 30 days, which was announced on the 13th. Given the recent COVID data, I don't think that's sufficient. I would urge the council to do what you can to push and have our voices heard to extend the moratorium further, and also support no utility shutoffs during the pandemic time. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Next, Madam Clerk.
Last up, we have Lori Bergner. Are you there,
Lori, are
Lori?
you there?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. There we go, Lori. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I didn't hear you say *6, so I on my phone it's unmuted, but I just didn't know what to do. Okay, so I'm a board member of the Immigration Project, and I'm also here to speak in favor of or urging the council to take up the Welcoming City Ordinance again, which is just necessary if we're going to become a certified welcoming city. The ordinance restricts communication between the police department and ICE, and that's just a necessary part of really creating a welcoming city. And I want to mention that I contacted Kathleen Lorenz from Normal Town Council, and she said that as far as she knows, everything's going fine with their welcoming city ordinance. And then I talked to Chief Rick Bleichner, and he said not only was it going really well and people were working together very well, but he said it's even been helpful for him because it keeps him in the loop. So it's actually, he's really liked having it actually. So this shows that it can be done without a problem, whatever else people thought in terms of that it couldn't be done or there would be some kind of major issues. There really have not been. And he talked about the importance of sitting down at the table together, listening to each, and really working out something that everybody can live with. And I think it's very doable. So I really know it was a very difficult situation when it came up last time, and I hope that the council will consider giving this a try again. It's been several years and it's gone beautifully and normal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that's it, Madam Clerk.
That's correct. And we had no emailed public comment. Just
Great.
wanted to state that for the record. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to item 5, both on the consent agenda, and there are both sets of minutes, one from October 12th, 2020, and the other from October 19th, 2020. I'm going to ask if, unless there's a motion to separate these for some reason, is there a motion to approve the sets of minutes here? Moved by Councilmember Matthew as presented. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Matthew.
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin.
Yes.
Councilmember Milawambwe.
Yes.
Councilmember Emig,
Yes.
Councilmember Painter,
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward, Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, did we have a vote from Councilmember Ward?
I thought that we did. I thought I heard her say
okay,
yay.
I didn't hear. Okay, thank you.
No, I said I abstained.
Oh, you abstained. Well, thank you for that
okay.
clarification.
Okay, I didn't quite understand what was because council, just for the record, Councilmember Ward was not on the council when these minutes occurred. Is that correct, Molly? Is that?
It is correct. I wasn't on the council, and it is correct that that's the reason why I'm abstaining.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that clarification.
Very important on those. Okay, next we move to item 6A, and that is presentation and discussion of the proposed library expansion as requested by the Bloomington Public Library. There is no motion here, and so we're going to start. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Gleason, then Jean Hamilton, our library director, for a 15-minute presentation and then up to a 15-minute council discussion. But again, this is the first presentation and reactions. And Mr. Gleason, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll start from there.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the community, an exciting night, and hope everybody's tuned in. And if you don't see it live, click on the presentation after the fact. This community is aware that this discussion of a library expansion has been something that's been ongoing for 10 plus years. Prior to my arrival about 3 years ago, there was a fair amount of work that had been done and was presented to council. And the project was a $30+ million project 4 years ago. And it was not all inclusive like what the community is going to hear tonight. The architectural firm that drew up the renderings and has worked quite a bit with the library, truly think everybody's going to be excited. Council has seen this presentation, but tonight it's the city's turn. So with that said, I'll turn this over to Julian Westerhout with the library board, and then Jeannie Hamilton as the executive director at the library. Julian.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Hello to all the public out there. Jeannie is starting to share the presentation. Just want to say we are very excited tonight. We've been doing an awful lot for a lot of years in a space that hasn't been as flexible and hasn't been as provided as much space as the community needs. We think what we're going to show you tonight, after listening extensively to the community, listening to the council in repeated iterations, we've come up with what we think is a plan with the architecture firm of Engberg Anderson that provides us with the space the community needs for the next few decades and the flexibility that it needs. We're going to be really right-sized, flexible, and inviting, and we're really excited about it. And I will let Jeannie tell you all about it.
Thank you. So I'll start with sharing, just imagine that you're coming to the library on a Saturday morning and you're coming from maybe the northwest side and you're traveling along Olive Street. You'll pass an entrance on this north side of the building and this new meeting room space. And then as you continue to travel along Olive Street, you'll see our existing patio and some enhanced features with that. And you'll see our new drive up book drop window, and then a place where people can drive up and grab curbside materials. Curbside is a service that we started with COVID, and we have heard that people want to keep curbside around forever because it's so convenient that we run materials out to the car. So this family continues along and parks in this lower level of just a small parking structure that adds about 50 extra spaces of parking to the library. And then they walk up along, this is East Street, and City Hall would be right over here. And they walk past the library, seeing the new entrance and enjoying the beautiful dynamic side of the library that has been added on with a lot of glass and enjoying a lot of natural light. And they continue along there, and they're going to enjoy the farmers market downtown because it's connected to the library now, because they can return then after maybe they picked up some coffee and some produce and enter through this Olive Street entrance, seeing again this dynamic feature that kind of calls out to the downtown. And then they'll enter through this new Olive Street entrance. This is a family of 4, and they stop in our new meeting rooms that can be used as 3 individual meeting rooms or have dividers that come down and be one larger meeting room. And let's say we have a traveling dinosaur exhibit that this family is going to enjoy. There's a lot of traveling exhibits out there that right now we can't host because our ceilings aren't high enough and we don't have the space to allot. And this would allow for that. Then as they're done enjoying that exhibit, they have a teenager who comes and enjoys this new teen activity space, maybe playing some video games with some friends or doing some homework with a group project before they join a program in our new maker space where they'd be learning about hands-on technology like 3D printing. One of the parents, while this teen's doing that, hops in one of these individual study rooms to apply for a job. And the other parent takes the other child down the stairs to our lower level and stops in this sensory friendly room because this child has some sensory processing challenges and the busy morning has been a lot for them. So they're able to decompress in this room and then are able to enjoy the interactive hands-on play and learning in this new children's area and enjoy this new space where there's a lot of gathering space for the families to enjoy together. So as you see, this blue is the existing library footprint. We are trying to concentrate the new construction, which is this orange color, in the one area of the building so that it reduces cost. So we would be filling in the current covered parking area and then adding on a little bit to the west of that. We would bump out a little bit here to expand those drive-up services, and we would have some green space along the edge of the building. This would also help dig into, we are on a hill, and so it would bring in a lot more natural light further back into the building. Then as you go up on the second floor, we're expanding in the same area, so that west side of the building and to the northwest corner. These here would be the new meeting rooms. And so there would be indoor, outdoor access as well as after hours access if we chose to use that. We would take advantage too of that new addition area and add a partial 3rd floor. And this would house administrative services and add on space that would be able to move those administrative services, which are less visited by the public, so that we would have more space for the public on those main 2 floors. This also serves to meet code compliance because we would be moving a lot of our mechanicals to this roof, and code compliance asks that you not have mechanicals visible from the sidewalk. So we are trying to connect to that downtown area, making a visual connection and really capitalize on our adjacency to the downtown. We are also meeting the major need that we have for parking by adding an additional about 50 spots from what we have now. We also would maintain our 1 entry point to the parking lot and 1 exit point. But we would improve our parking lot situation. There's a lot of interactions between pedestrians and traffic right now, and we'd make that a little bit more gradual as with a longer terrace area for people to walk out onto and some bike parking so that you're not entering right into the parking lot. We would have some accessible spaces right against the building. And then this would be the new drive up book drop return. And there would be a drive up pickup window for holds. And there would be about space for 3 cars to be there. And there's space to navigate around. So we know the drive up return takes less time than a drive up pickup. So there would be room to navigate around each other safely. That 2-level parking deck would be the parking lot that is currently just south of the library's lot. It's shared city staff and library staff parking. And so that parking structure would be a 2-level parking structure and would be pretty flush with the current grade there. So there it would just be small ramping that would go in and out, and it would be open on 3 sides. So there'd be a lot of natural light as well as ample lighting within the structure. And then the upper level would be flush with our current parking lot. So it would expand the parking lot very seamlessly. So it's one big parking lot on the upper level. So some features that we're getting right now, we do have some outdoor space, but it's a little difficult to access from inside the building. We do have a drive-up return and parking for about 88 vehicles. But the proposed would really enhance that terrace area, adding a covered area so that we could use it with even hotter weather or during the sunny times, or maybe even if it's sprinkling a little bit. We would have safer drive-up area. We would have a drive-up pickup window, and then we'd have a lot more parking available. We would also open up our north entry again. So we'd have a north and south entry for people to enter the library. And we would have that pedestrian and bicycle arrival. And we would incorporate stormwater management since we would be displacing some earth here. We would improve our seating a lot. One of the biggest things that we get asked for is study rooms and study space. Right now we only have 2, so those go very quickly. We would be increasing that to 12. We would have our meeting room is something that is used very, very frequently. And that's fairly small right now with only 100 seats. Our new meeting room would be 3 meeting rooms that would be able to be combined into one. And the biggest one would seat 300 people. We would expand our shelving and be able to have lower shelving. Right now we have very tall shelving. And we would have the same thing with the story time rooms where it would be able to be 2 individual story rooms or 1 larger story room. We would have a computer lab that we could use for computer classes, or it would have all glass walls so that we could also use it for public computing when there aren't any classes in session. And that would be a quieter area, which we get requests for a lot. And then we do have a quiet reading room in the design as well. And currently you can say that our building is definitely solid and durable, but this new building would be not only well built, but dynamic, connected, welcoming, more modern. It would have a heart. And we really have stressed the flexibility so that it is future friendly, so we can adapt to the future. And we would incorporate energy efficiency and sustainability into the building. So right now we're in November of 2020. So we're talking with you as the City Council. If we get the go ahead to move forward, we would over the next year work on detailed schematic design drawings. And this would be about a $750,000 commitment to do the designs and construction drawings. Then in January, we would be ready to build. January of 2022. We would be ready to bid out, which is a great time to release construction drawings or construction bidding. And then over an 18-month period would be the construction. So we would focus the first 8 months on the new construction on the west side of the building. And then we would focus 4 months on a first floor renovation and then 4 months on a second floor renovation. This phasing would allow us to be in the building the whole time with just very brief closures, maybe a day here and there when we are doing a lot of moving of equipment and furniture. And so This cost has come in at $20.7 million. And we think that the library can contribute $5.9 million with our current fund balances that we've saved for this capital project. And then also with donations, grants, and additional reserves that will come about before the project. So we would be asking for a $15 million bond. And so Bloomington Public Library is contributing nearly 29% of the cost. And then the $15 million bond would be 71% of the cost. So I will turn it back to Tim. Did you want any closing remarks?
I did real quick. Hopefully the community finds this extremely exciting, and the bonding and the funding portion. This is not what's on our plate at this time. Truly, the library is at the point, much like our O'Neill Pool project, where they're in the design phase, and was looking for encouragement, thumbs up from council to use those dollars to advance to this next step, because they're very good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. Again, this is something that's been a conversation in this community for several years. And I think what we saw tonight is a vision and, potentially something that's going to become a reality in very short order. And it's exciting for the community and the design work. Heard nothing but extremely positive comments from the elected officials and staff members. Our directors saw this as well. And just truly a great job on Julian and Jeannie's part, along with staff and the remaining library board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Gleason. And thank you, everybody involved, Jeannie Hamilton and Julian Westerhout and others, and the entire library board that have been involved in this, and all the staff. Thank you. Obviously, this is such a critical thing, not just for the quality of our life of our community, the extent to which thousands of people use the library, not just for the traditional resources, but even to apply for jobs because they don't have adequate access to the internet. I mean, this is such a wonderful thing, and it's been so long in coming. And I just wanted to add, our library board, and Mr. Gleason, if you would correct me if I'm incorrect here, or if I'm overstating something, but we have clearly the lowest tax levy of any library board or district in central Illinois in terms of metro areas. We're lower than Peoria, we're lower than Decatur, we're lower than Champaign, Urbana, we're lower than Springfield. And is that the case, Mr. Gleason? Thumbs up. Okay, thank you. And at that level, at some point, as we maybe move forward toward making this a reality, which will be such a huge benefit to the entire community and our broader image, frankly, but is that maybe one piece of paying for the bond may be a series of graduated increases, very small, because they're all very small, in the library's tax levy over time, since we're already very low. So that might help to close that gap. But anyway, at this point, I am going to turn it over to my distinguished colleagues. And I'm going to start with Jeff Crable, because I see his hand up first. Jeff, come on down.
Thanks, Mayor. Jeannie and the board, great work to get to the presentation today. And I really think you blew it out of the park with the presentation for sure. I'll echo what the mayor said. I was going to say some of those things, so I won't repeat. So I've got a series of 3 questions. So I wanted to get a little more detail. Are we adding handicap spots, or is it going to be the same? And then what's the closest bus access do we anticipate? Next question would be basically, people that argue that, physical libraries are a thing of the past. We don't really need them anymore. And the third would be, how does the size of our library compare to other similar cities nearby? So those are the questions I had.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyway, I was about to editorialize, but I do that too much as it is. Jeannie, go ahead.
So yes, we would definitely strive to meet all the code requirements for accessible parking. There are a lot of things in the code that tell you how to meet those. There are, and in terms of further parking, there are things in the code that encourage you to have more bike parking, and some of that bike parking counts towards your total parking count. And if you have like electrical vehicle charging, that could count towards some of your parking as well. So we would strive to do definitely some of those things. And then I believe the closest bus access is right outside of City Hall. So this opening up the Olive Street entrance would be very helpful for that, because right now it's hard to navigate that hill, especially in the winter, even for able-bodied people. That that hill is very can be hazardous. And then as far as relevancy, I think we are seeing the library is still booming. We have a lot of checkouts still, even in the age of the e-readers, and we do offer e-books and things like that. Last year, even with COVID in the last couple months, we had 1.1 million checkouts. So our year does go through May 1 to April 30th. So we did see a couple months of impact there. We've also seen in the last 2 months a 10% increase over the previous year's checkouts. And then so that was October, and then September we saw a 5% increase. So even now in these times where everything's different, we're seeing increases, and that's not all attributed to e-resources. We are seeing high increases in our print resource use as well. And as far as e-resources, we do have that as very big part of our service, but it's been at Bloomington Public Library for 14 years, and we're still only seeing it as 16% of our circulation. So our physical materials still are high use. And we also are offering a wide variety of programs, educational and free entertainment for people. It serves as a meeting place. And one of the things during COVID, during social distancing, we can't have those meetings like we used to. And those are the things that people are missing the most. We get a lot of questions about, hey, can I still tutor here? Or can I have a family visitation here? Homeschool groups, community groups. And those are things that people really want to see at the library.
I think, Jeff, sorry, Jeannie.
Sorry,
I think, Jeff, that the question isn't our library is going to become irrelevant. I don't think that's going to happen. They will change. We're looking for maximum flexibility. So we're getting different sorts of demands. I think the traditional aspect of the library is going to be around as long as probably most of us will be, and beyond that. But we also want to be prepared for the changing nature of this with the flexibility to adapt as time goes on.
Sure. Yeah. And we've really tried to incorporate that in the design, just the availability of flexibility so we can adapt to those future needs. And then I think your final question was buildings of similar sizes or similar size population. So for example, Champaign is similar in size to our population. I guess I should start with our current building is 57,000 square feet. We're proposing just over 81,000 square feet with this design. Champaign is 121,000 square feet. And Peoria actually has 5 branches, and their main branch is 103,000 square feet. So much higher than that if you look at all the branches.
Thank you very much, Jeannie, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All you've done. Thank you. Jeff, was that, I'm sorry, Jeff, did that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
And just to clarify, this was actually a really very legitimate question, not just, well, it is today, but it was most important 10 to 15, 18, 20 years ago. And at this point, the question is, maybe some people have not understood, but it's quite stale. And not that we aren't still trying to navigate that, but We know we're going to need a physical presence for all kinds of reasons. And we know we're going to need an online presence for all kinds of reasons. So thank you, Jeannie and Julian, for helping to clarify that. Julie Emig, you have a question or a comment. Julie.
Yes, thank you for that great presentation, Jeannie. As you know, I'm very excited about this initiative. And I always like to share just a little tidbit from your website. You have a great building FAQ section. So I encourage anyone who's just interested in kind of the historical development of the library over the years and why this is needed. I mean, it was built in 1976, right, for a population of 41,000. And we increased the space in 2006 by 25%, but we had a population increase of 87%. And you've already touched upon the numbers of circulation, which are higher now, which is understandable in these times. But it's so much more than just getting resources and access to e-learning. That there's 17,000 people attend programming. That you have at least pre-COVID 1,000 attendees daily. I've spent a lot of time at the library, and it's something that a lot of other families and friends have shared that they've invested in over the years. So I think that this is a marvelous design and opportunity, and I'm truly excited about it. My question might be more for City Manager Gleason, but it was something that he had shared with us earlier. If you could translate for the record a tax levy of this amount, how does that cost carry over to the average homeowner in Bloomington? If you know what I'm asking. Yeah.
I think I do, and you're going to tell me if I got it right or not. But the numbers that we shared with council in the preview a couple of weeks ago, it's quite simply this. The mayor commented to how low our property tax rates are. Well, that's a benefit to the community. And we are 15% of that property tax rate. So what is already occurred for this year, this is not what we're talking about. The design phase is what comes next. And then after that, we look at how do we fund this $15 million project. And I'm very careful not to say it's only, but on a $165,000 home, an increase of $20 per home on valued at $165,000 will pay for this $15 million project for our community. And we will still be well below. That would move up the library's portion of the property tax rate. I know I'm close, but I think it'd be like 3.04 or 3.09%, still well below our closest comparable community of 3.44% on the property tax rate, and that's the city of Decatur. So a great investment, but I get that's a conversation for a future date. Did I answer?
Yeah, just
yes, you did. Thank you.
To correct that, it's move the decimal point over one, so we're 0.3.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeannie.
0.304 and Decatur's 0.344. Thank you. I bet you I've got Scott Rathman pulling his hair out right now. So
details, Tim. Anyway, at this point, I'm going to call on Councilmember Milawambwe and then Councilmember Ward. Mboka.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie, Julian, for a great presentation. As I said in our meeting earlier, I was very excited to see the design because you incorporated a lot of the feedback that you've received over the years, not only making the space flexible, as well as making the library look like a library where it's not, it doesn't seem like such a concrete jungle. That was one of the most
Soviet gulag. Sorry.
That was one of the most exciting part for me to see. And also I wanted to comment on the fact that you've been very good stewards of your resources over the years, putting some money aside. But but as well as looking to fundraise. And part of the fundraising in order to decrease the cost to taxpayers includes having something exciting, attractive for people to consider and find worthy of an investment, an additional investment on their own. So just want to thank you for that. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see, we next, again, move to Councilmember Ward.
Yeah, I would echo what several folks have already said in terms of thanking those who have worked really hard to put this presentation together. It's a meaningful and beautiful plan that you have, and it was well presented, and it makes it easy to get my head around and it becomes supportive of. I see libraries as foundational to leveling the playing field. In many ways, books and learning have been a privilege, right? They've been privileged people have easily been able to get to books and learning and reading, and there's all sorts of baggage that goes along with that, and libraries kind of stand squarely for leveling the playing field for people, and so I'm heartily in support of this.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Carrillo.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to say thank you so much for the presentation. It was amazing. Love the visuals, and especially just want to name that I loved the way that we are approaching this from a very people-centric perspective, and we're talking about families and human beings and how they are going to be enjoying and making use of this space, which I think is really, really refreshing in government when we're actually talking about people and centering our plans around them. So thank you so much for bringing that to this presentation and to this super important project.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Carrillo, for reminding us that's why we're here. We're trying to help people. Thank you. Anyone else at this point? Thank you so much. Again, we look forward to making progress on this, and Mr. Gleason and I and the library board and others, really want to move this forward, and I look forward to working with the council to make sure that this happens, or at least as long as I'm mayor, that we get to the point that this is about to happen. And if I'm not doing what I should be doing along the way, everyone, including council, I know the council will, smack me to make sure that I keep doing that. At this point, we're going to move to our council initiatives under item item B, and that is under the first one is consideration and action on whether to move forward. And let me stress this for both of these before I even go down this path. This is purely a question of whether to move forward with this. There are some options. If we will both note on both of these, there's a 3-minute presentation by the council member that has made the query and the request, and then a 5-minute, which is total for the other 8 of you, which is less than 2 minutes apiece, not including transition time, for comments. And that mostly the comment would be yes, no, or at most 1 or 2 sentences. After 2 sentences, I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to say you need to cut bait, okay? Just so that we can follow through. And that's the procedure that we have established. In the past, though, I must say, especially as we're moving forward, not that council ought to have council initiatives, but under most circumstances, in the 6 years out of my seven and a half or so as mayor, if you just ask us, we'll bring them. Now we can kind of branch out, and I understand the rationale for this, is when a council member and they were the only one, they couldn't even get a second. They wanted their shtick to come forward. I think mostly we've not experienced that lately. So I just float that out there for my colleagues' productivity throughout, not just the next 6 months, but beyond that. And that is, if you want something on the agenda, just contact Tim and I. And if we find that there's broader support, a little bit of support, we'll bring it forward. Anyway, at this point, so we're going to start with a 3-minute presentation by Councilmember Boland, and then we will go to a very quick 5-minute presentation for everyone. So Donna, you have the floor. Go for it.
Well, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to make it very clear that this is not related to welcoming city ordinance. When that was brought forward several years ago, I spoke against it for a variety of reasons. I believe it's time to set aside identity politics and some of the fear-mongering rhetoric and hyperbole that's been going on in the past. And I think it's time to put our words and values into action. It's time to do the necessary work to create a strong foundation for a welcoming community. It's time to recognize the importance of a multi-sector collaboration, and it's time to cast a broad net to shepherd all segments of this community toward a common goal, which is to gain solid commitment from local government, business leaders, community organizations, educational institutions, the immigrant and refugee community, all members of the public, to create and then adopt welcoming practices which are based on the Welcoming America guidelines, some of which we already have in place. The COVID response brought all or many social service resources under one umbrella. The Immigration Project has recently received a substantial grant in order to establish a welcoming center. And for the record, Ward 2 has a significant population of non-English speakers. And as a result, Cedar Ridge, the elementary school, has a very robust English as a second language program, to the point that the English speakers are learning Spanish. And in my discussions with some of the community members to collect data, local data, and to assess the needs of this community, to find the gaps, remove barriers, and link the residents to the established community resources. My vision is based on the Strong Towns philosophy, which is a bottom-up community engagement, which encourages sustainable economic growth and enrichment. The framework is very similar to the McLean County Mental Health Initiative. And with the city adopting this resolution, my hope is a collaboration between the town of Normal, McLean County on this, and make this a regional endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and start in this order, and then it doesn't really matter the order because I'm going to ask everyone very quickly. And at the end of your remarks, because the clock is ticking, yes, no, do we continue this? Start with Councilmember Carrillo, Bray, and then we're going to go around the dais and start with Ward 1. Councilmember Carrillo.
Yeah, I'm going to be opposing this initiative. I think it is extremely dangerous to get the sticker of being a welcoming community without being willing to take the necessary steps to ensure legal protection for our immigrant community. It actually sends a very confusing message. If we are not willing to take on the difficult issue of saying that we're going to discontinue a relationship with an administration and with an organization like ICE that is culpable of some of the most horrendous things happening, then we should not be calling ourselves a welcoming city because we have not earned that title. And, you know, I, as an immigrant, we who are immigrants, nosotros que somos inmigrantes, nous qui somos immigrés, we can see this for what it is, which is an attempt to circumvent very important policy, a very important policy decision that the community has been asking for very loudly in this space for a number of years. And so people are tired of window dressing. We don't want more window dressing. We want real policy changes that actually protect immigrants in our community. And if it's not that, then I don't want it.
Thank you very much. Next, Councilmember Bray, and then we're going to go around the dais.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. And thank you Councilmember Boland for bringing this forward. This really does pick up a thread of work that was done by prior council. As mentioned, we worked through multiple issues and requests from the community for different kinds of initiatives or relief. And our prior council landed on, finding that welcoming city ordinance was not a match for our city. The state had acted in the Trust Act, and we felt like the federal government had preempted this space, as well as taking on the issues with ICE and the police were not issues that we were seeing play out in our own community. So we felt like it wasn't a match for our community. However, I, as well as several other sitting council members, attended some meetings and had some discussions about Welcoming America. And as I attended a Welcoming America meeting and looked at some of the materials, it certainly was a broad brush of all kinds of needs that anyone who is new to a community can benefit from a Welcoming America platform. I just want to say that we have an expectation at the federal level that there's going to be some relief in the federal immigration space. We know that the president-elect has made mention that one of the first actions in January 2021 is that action will be taken to give some relief in some of this egregious activities that have occurred in the past in this space. And I'm looking forward to that, and that's where it belongs. So we know that the feds are going to take action and have some relief. Welcoming America is something that focuses on what the community can do. It's within our municipal authority to do. And so I will be supportive for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, we're kind of getting to the end of this. Anybody else want to speak? I'm not going to go around the dais. Well, actually, I guess I have to go around the dais. That's true. I'm sorry. Because we just yes or no, at most a sentence in terms of pushing this forward. Councilmember Matthey, Ward 1.
Thanks, Mayor. So I'm actually going to disagree with things that Jen and Kim both said. I don't think that the community has spoken on this. I think we've had 40 people on one side of the argument or the discussion and 40 people on the other side of the discussion who have continuously yelled at us without involving the other 76,000 people that live in Bloomington.
Yes, no. I'm sorry, Jamie. Sorry.
I don't think this is a yes, no yet, Mayor.
Okay, well, that's all I have at this point. These are the rules that you guys have adopted.
Okay, then I will say, yes, I'm willing to see if it evolves to the point where we can involve an actual community conversation.
Thank you. I'm assuming Donna Boland says yes on her own ordinance, unless she nods differently. Okay, and move to, proposal. Move next, Alderman Milawambwe. Yes, no?
I'd say yes. I'm interested in looking into it and finding out a little bit more about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Emig.
I'll give it a qualified yes. And the qualified is that I see this as an opportunity for the kind of collaboration we're talking about, but in no way does this mean I am not interested in a welcoming city ordinance as part of what this is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, just so we all know that's sort of a given. At this point, it's just yes, no for the immediate proposal. Councilmember Painter.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Carrillo. No, okay. Councilmember Ward. Molly?
Yes, qualified yes, along the lines of what Councilmember Emig said. And I want both and. I'm tired of settling for the least. And I want my cake and eat it too. And I want that for this city. I don't see any reason why we can't have both.
Thank you. I think we all want cake and eat it too. Thank you, Councilmember Ward. Let's see, Councilmember Cravel.
Thank you, Mayor. I will not support this initiative without welcoming city ordinance to be a part of it.
Okay,
pointing out Welcoming America.
I'm sorry, it's yes or no in a sentence, which I think I apologize, but that's the way we're moving forward because we're way out of time as it is. But you're not going to support it. We get it. Councilmember Bray.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have some concerns and some doubts on the vote or the concerns of several members of the council, but we can move forward with this. and Councilmember Boland, if you'll work with the administration and your colleagues to ensure that we can move to the next level. Okay. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate that. Next, and again, I apologize, some of you, what I had to cut off, but it at the point that I'm asking yes, no, again, in the future, so there aren't any hurt feelings. It's yes, no. If you want a sentence to qualify, that's cool, but it's not time to speak again on it. There will be, I'm sure, on these things, at least 2 or 3 or more times before you actually have to make a decision that you'll be voting on this. Next, we move to item, I have to take my glasses off, sorry. Consideration on, to move forward with a council resolution, initiative submitted by Councilmember Jeff Crable to adopt a resolution funding utility shutoffs to constitute a pandemic safety and calling on the governor to enact a moratorium. Before I go further on this, obviously this is not counting against your time, Jeff, I apologize, but I think it's important for us to move. Mr. Juergens, is this something, and I've had people on both sides saying yes, no, is this something that is already covered by the governor? And if so, why did Champaign or Urbana do anything to add, training wheels on a tricycle? Can you clarify, or am I incorrect?
Yeah, so my understanding is the ICC does have an agreement with several utilities, including Ameren, that goes through the spring or the winter of 2021 for a moratorium, but they have to meet certain criteria. And I know that Urbana has passed that resolution. I know Champaign has some language in their code. But to be honest, I haven't looked into it a great deal. Again, kind of waiting for the discussion that comes out of this meeting.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. I'm turning this over to Jeff. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do want to correct you. So, I mean, the moratorium is a voluntary one that the ICC has gotten with utilities. So my initiative is for staff to create a resolution finding utility shutoffs constitute a pandemic safety risk and calling on the governor to enact a moratorium on utility disconnections under his emergency powers. Urbana passed a similar resolution. The resolution I'm proposing would also ask that the health department receive disconnect notices from utilities so they can act before there is a disconnection. And my initiative also calls for the mayor to receive additional emergency powers, which the city of Champaign allows. As Mr. Axelrod mentioned, he mentioned the numbers. And so talked to both supervisors who have seen these shutoffs, and Path Director Karen Zangerly also has evidence, and she supports this resolution. So the state is telling our landlords they can't collect rent. The city is not shutting off people's power. Why? Because we want to keep people in their homes. This is the safest place as we go through this pandemic. However, if utilities, for instance, can shut off people's electricity, they're effectively being evicted. Then we as a community have to deal with that situation. We can argue that people that receive disconnect notices should be the ones taking the initiative to try to contact the utility or work out payment arrangements. But again, during a pandemic, evicting people from their homes increases the risk to the community as a whole. Also, if power is disconnected and then people call, they're being told that, at least by Ameren, that they have to pay all the past due amounts before power will be turned back on. And this is basically a three-pronged approach. The governor has most muscle if he will act. If not, we can get the utilities to notify our health department of any shut-off notices so action can be taken before power is turned off. And if those things don't work, then we can act as a local government body as an emergency power to issue a moratorium. To protect our residents, that's why I've submitted this initiative and hope you vote in favor of moving this forward. Thank you.
Let's talk later. Okay, cool. Thanks. Cool, thanks. I'm sorry, terribly sorry. let's continue. Anybody else?
You expected me to talk longer, didn't you, Mayor?
No, I actually did. And actually, my son was outside knocking at the door. I apologized. And I said, I have to leave, go away. You don't understand. I know you think my entire life revolves around you, but it really doesn't always. He just moved around the corner from me. At this point, any discussion, a quick discussion before I do a quick yes, no. All right, we're going to start with Councilmember Matthey in Ward 1, and we'll go around the dais.
Yes.
Councilmember Bolin.
A qualified yes. I'd like to get information from Jeff Jurgens.
Councilmember Milwamwe.
Yes.
Councilmember Enid.
Yes, and I commend Alderman Craybill. He really did his homework on this one.
Cool. And Councilmember Painter.
Yes.
Councilmember Carrillo.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Councilmember, I'm assuming Councilmember Craig, you're in favor of your own proposal. So I'll assume that's an aye. Councilmember Bray.
Yes, and Council Member Crable and I had an opportunity to discuss this before the meeting. And I just want to say authority is a question I'll have for our city attorney. What authority we have over these various things. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and turn to our city manager. Before I go to your report, do you believe that the staff has the information you need under items 1 and 2 under B to move forward?
Yes, I do, Mayor. Step 2 will be primarily council conversation in greater depth.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to turn it all over to you, Mr. Gleason.
Thank you, Mayor. Phil, if you would put the first slide up, please. New to the city, we have Denise Pfeiffer has joined the police department as support staff. Montez Dones has joined Public Works as the administrative assistant. And Kimberly Smith is the assistant director for economic community development. That's Melissa's number 2. All 3 welcome to the Bloomington organization. They have been great hires. Next item. Indoor Farmers Market, November 21st is coming Saturday at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Grossinger Motors Arena. And this will be held inside the arena. Last chance to gather up some goods, prior to Thanksgiving. Next slide. Season of Small. Celebrate shopping small all season long. And that begins Black Friday, I believe, and runs through Christmas Eve day. And that's another one. Spend just a quick second on this slide. So critical in these times that we support our small business, restaurants, and other retailers. And I know it's very much appreciated. I hear it quite often from the different merchants and business owners. So it's something that we as a community have been supporting, but need to continue supporting our small business. Additional items that I wanted to share very quickly. Made notice to the community last week that our downtown traffic enforcement at the street level will resume on Monday, November 23rd. And that does not include the garages that will remain free and open. We will reassess this in about 90 days, so late February, early March. But the logic behind this, a number of things, but probably the biggie, is to move that street level traffic in and out so it can, purchase and visit our different downtown merchants. Another quickie for everyone is with the creation of a new position of Chief Diversity and Equity Officer and the promotion up of Michael Hurt. That vacates the Community Relations Manager position that's primary role is working with the Human Relations Commission. And we do promotions all the time throughout the community or throughout the organization, but this one's a little bit more prominent in that it does work with the Human Relations Commission. And we have another internal promotion, and the person that received that job is Nikki Richards, was promoted up into this position. That community relations manager will now also report to the newly created Chief Diversity and Equity Officer position. So congratulations to Nikki, and that's all I've got for tonight, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim, and thank you again for all you do. Excuse me. At this point, all I really need then, because we don't have an executive session, is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Donna Bolin. Man, she is always there. Second by Councilmember Ward. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 We are done. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.